Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be showcasing you a combo and deck list for Vanquish post DOOD that takes the deck to the next level. Starting off, this is going to be 2 level 5s. Basically, Yoko plus any 5 gets you to like Vanquish engine kind of. So you're going to start off by revealing Yoko, summoning itself and the other level 5. Yoko effect, you're going to go ahead and add the new card, K9 Noroi. If you don't know what Noroi does, new K9 monster from DOOD. It says if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. So like the other cards, like Yoko and like Lantern and Azuna. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a non-machine K9, so any K9 that isn't itself basically, from your deck. But you cannot special summon from the extra deck except K9 monsters while you control that face-up monster. So kind of like the Lunalite Hound restriction. And then you can send a face-up K9 card you control to the graveyard. Look at your opponent's hand. So this card is crazy. It's basically like a tour guide plus you get hand knowledge. It's exactly what like K9 needed. So you're gonna normal summon the Noroi. Noroi effect, summon the Azuna effect, send Lupus. You can technically summon Lupus straight out. However, because of the card we're going to summon a bit later, you want to actually thin your deck. So now we're locked into K9s while we have this card. We're at summon number 4. We're going to overlay 2 for Ripper. So we're not locked into K9s anymore. And we also protect it from Nibiru. Ripper effect, search Case for K9. Case for K9, search Lantern. Lantern effect, summon itself and Azuna or Lupus. It doesn't matter. Technically, I guess target Azuna in case they like had DB Crow so that like they don't DB Crow banish Lupus, but you might end up negating it with Ripper anyway. Lantern effect, go ahead and add the quick play spell. And now we can use the Noroi effect to send the Case for K9, so we can look at our opponent's hand, which is really good getting the hand knowledge even though you don't rip a card. And then now we can turn these 4 bodies into a Link 4. Sayuja Skull Dread. So Sayuja is really good in this deck because it helps you turn your K9 engine into Vanquish engine from bridging from one to the other, which was a problem before. And that was like one advantage that the Krishna deck had, but Vanquish didn't. But now you can. And yes, you might be wondering like, but you're not guaranteed to draw into the Vanquish engine. And while that is true, you have thinned your deck by a few cards, and you're drawing 4. I just need to see a Raisin, I need to see a Holy Sue, I need to see a Rhoda, or like a Madlove. Holy Sue, you need attributes, but you can like sculpt your hand too. So you basically are almost guaranteed to draw into like a way to play more. Also, because you get the hand knowledge from Noroi, from looking at their hand, you actually get to like know what exactly to keep and not to keep, Maybe you draw a non-engine that's really good against your opponent's hand that you might have put back otherwise. You might be like, well, I'm keeping this card. So, or like maybe you look at your opponent's hand and you're like, double Ash might be good here. Random example, but then you keep double Ash after you draw with Sayuja. So Sayuja is really, really good in the deck, and you should definitely be going for this whenever you have the bodies for it. Something to keep in mind is that, let's say your opponent's hand is super, super weak. Maybe you don't make Sayuja, maybe you don't risk it. Maybe you just be like, okay, just my rank 5s are enough to win. But I think going for Sayuja is super, super nice. Anywho, now I'll show you guys the deck list. Alright, so here's the deck list for the K9 deck. If you look at it, it looks pretty similar to the deck pre-DOOD, but there are a couple changes. So, obviously I'm playing the Noroi, the main one. This card is absolutely crazy. I already explained what it did before. The reason for one Noroi is that it's a normal summon, so you don't really want to draw it. Drawing it isn't bad, because like normal summon Noroi is still like combo by itself. It says summon Yoko from deck, Yoko effect. Obviously it does a lot, but the reason you don't want to draw it is that you have other normal summons, right? I'm playing Raisin, I'm playing Madlove, I'm playing Rhoda. That's 7 normal summons right there. I don't really want to play 10 by adding 2 more Noroi. So that's why you're playing a 1. Also, technically, Case of K9 can be an effective copy of Noroi sometimes, and the Yoko can get to it as well. So you don't really want to draw Noroi. So that's why we're playing 2 Noroi. Also, it's weaker than your other normal summons going second, especially weaker than Raisin. So 1 Noroi, 1's all you really need to get your engine rolling. So because of that, I'm playing 3 Yoko. I know in the past deck profile I uploaded, I didn't have 3 Yoko, but I think Yoko is an extremely good card in this version, particularly because it gets you to K9 engine now through Noroi. So before, Yoko was arguably a card you maybe didn't 100% want to play in the main deck. It kind of depended on what you were expecting though, because like if you play against like a Vanquish mirror, you kind of want the K9 cards. Generally, the player who opens better engine hands wins in the K9 mirror. You don't really win with like non-engine. But versus Yummy, I think the non-engine mattered a bit more. But now with the Noroi, I think you're gonna see everyone playing like big canine packages. So that's something to note. But yeah, going through 3 Raisin, 3 Madlove, 3 Staker Soul, Aurora, and Prosperity. These 11 cards are mandatory in my opinion in every variant. I know some people don't like Prosperity, but I think this card is crazy. It's the best consistency card in the game, and Vanquish has huge consistency issues. Yes, it isn't an attribute, but not every play in your deck needs an attribute. I mean, that needs like an immediate attribute, if you know what I'm saying. Like Prosperity can grab an attribute, and I value Prosperity being able to help me play, especially when I go first. Especially in the inconsistent high roll deck like this, over like another card that might be like lackluster. 1 Noroi, like I mentioned, 3 Yokul, 1 case per K9. You could potentially play a multiple case per K9 because opening K9 engine did become better post the last set, post DOOD, sorry. But I feel like I don't feel like the K9 engine is that great going second, so I only have the 1. But you could arguably play more. I know like a big K9 engine, 1 world, so I'm sure a lot of people are going to try that out. 2 Xiaolong, 1 Borger, 1 Caesar. I don't think you want to draw these cards, at least in this version. 3 Holy Sue, and then for the non-engine, 3 Ash. Ash is mandatory in every Vanquish deck, so is Fula in my opinion. So like these cards are mandatory. Shifter and 2 Nib. I decided to build this main deck a little bit more for Yummy. A little bit. I say a little bit more for Yummy. It's not fully for Yummy. Like if I was building it for like the Yummy matchup, like I wouldn't play like Azuna. I wouldn't play 3 Azuna, to be honest. But I think Shifter is pretty good against Yummy, and it's an attribute. Nibiru is also pretty decent against Yummy, although depending on how good your opponent is, it loses value. It's one of those cards, so you could experiment with other options. That's definitely something you could go for. So like honestly, you could like maybe experiment with other cards in these slots for real. But I think the Shifter is like fine. Shifter and Nib are fine, to be honest. And then the 3 Azuna. If you're expecting a ton of Yummy, you can cut Azuna down to 2. Because I think you want 2 in your deck for your deck like to function, especially like because 2 comes up when you go first versus like hand trap sometimes. But if you're expecting a ton of Yummy, you can cut the 3rd. Just to play another card that's alive against Yummy. But I think this is fine. I think most of the time in most tournament settings, you should be probably just playing 3. And then the start, the quick play spell, the trap card, lantern, and the lupus. Moving on to the extra deck, 2 rocks, SP. I am playing Sayuja. Sayuja was a card that some people thought about before, but it was kind of awkward because you have to link away the Ripper. But now that we have the Noroi, you don't need to link away Ripper anymore, so it just gets insanely strong. 1 Werewolf. There is another card that I'm not playing. It's a new card, K9 666 Jax. I'll explain what this does really quick. If this card is XYZ summoned, or if your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, you can detach a material from this card, then target a monster in the field, destroy it. So pops a monster on summon basically, or like when if your opponent activated like a monster effect hand or graveyard, and then it has another effect. It says a K9 XYZ monster that has this card's material gains this effect. During any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is doubled. So what does that mean? So when you use Force Release to summon the Werewolf, if you use Force Release on top of the Jax, then your Werewolf is going to be dealing double damage. It's going to be dealing double damage, and it's going to be able to attack multiple times because of this effect. So that's actually insanely strong. So this card does have potential, and I think it could be worth messing around with. I don't have it in the extract right now. I'll tell you what I would cut forward in a second. Valon, I think, is mandatory. The Nash Knight is mandatory. CXYZ is to summon the Masquerade package and the C101. Imperial Princess is for like lines to play around Nib sometimes, or when you get nibbed, Rocks and Zeus. So in my opinion, the most cuttable cards is Princess for sure, and I think this package is not needed as well. Also, you might be noticing that I'm not playing Smasher. I really don't feel like Smasher comes up in this deck, I'm not gonna lie. You can make it a lot, but like I feel like it's not even that great. I feel like most of the time, the vast majority of the time, like vast majority, you're better off making something else. So I don't have it in the extract right now, but you could also play Smasher too. It's pretty chill. It does like auto win you some games, so it is pretty ignorant card. But I feel a lot of the time those games are still winnable. You just have to like think. But especially when people are like cutting Perulia from the main deck and stuff like that, I don't know. But it could be playable. That's an option as well for another extract card. And then I think these cards are all mandatory, to be honest. Well, this card isn't necessarily mandatory, but you need all these cards are mandatory, these first like 10 in my opinion, and then you need a Nash Knight target for sure. Ideally, I think you want to be able to activate Nash Knight twice in the game. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed. I'll be trying to look into like building the deck with Extra and Roy or something like that. So like stay tuned for like another Vanquish profile coming soon. Also, if there's a ban list, I'll make sure to update the deck list with like the deck post ban list. Anywho, I hope you have a great day.